You're listening to Going to the Chapel, a 21 Jump Street podcast. Grab your Aquanet, throw on your best acid wash jacket, and join us as we gab about this classic television program. Hey there, I'm Amanda McLaughlin.
I'm Christopher McLaughlin.
And this is
Going to the Chapel. This podcast is a deep dive into the Fox television show 21 Jump Street that ran from 1987 to 1991. And just like in our marriage, I know nothing.
And I know everything. So, we're back for our second episode where we will be discussing the final
second half
of the pilot episode. There are a couple things. I have some notes about stuff. I don't know what you would call it, corrections maybe.
Go for it.
I rewatched to get an okie dokie count because, as we've mentioned, Tom Hansen says okie doke and okie dokie a lot. And
like
so
all the cool kids do.
I counted for the first half of the pilot, he has 2 okie dokes.
All right.
That's my
do you want to hop into this episode, or do you have anything else? Okay.
I don't.
Here we go. So, Season 1, Episode 2, or Episode 1, Part 2, or something. Anyway, so it starts with a recap of the first half, lest you have forgotten it. At least on Hulu it does. I don't know if it originally ran with the recap or not, but...
Well, my assumption is because it was a 2-hour premiere, I think it just started right afterwards.
So they probably have added the recap
since.
But in
syndication, I'm thinking has the recap.
I wrote down, by the way, I forgot that the name of the school is Amherst, which is the most, upper-class sounding school in the history of the world.
It is.
As opposed... And why Waxer would be going to a school called Amherst. It sounds like a private school, but it definitely reads public.
Waxer, he drives a Ferrari, but that's also because, as we find out, he's running a burglary ring. So I don't know if he actually... I think that we're making an assumption that perhaps he's low income, but...
Oh, I think
just because he's black doesn't necessarily.
Well, he went into a life of crime,
income.
and usually the well-off go into crime, but they don't usually go into that kind of crime. Stripping cars and selling drugs and that kind of thing.
He has a probation officer, but no one questions why this teenager who looks 45 is driving a Ferrari. Anyway,
okay. So sorry, moving on to the episode.
There was a recap.
So the recap. Then we cut to the 21 Jump Street Chapel, and they are playing slow-mo football.
With a frisbee.
Yeah, so it's funny. So I used to do this in my living room all the time, pretend to play football. Because this is what you did before you had the internet or, choosing or streaming television or anything like that. This is the pre-internet entertainment.
So, yeah, we have Jinko and Aoki and Pinhall are all playing slow-mo football.
Yes. And basically the only two who aren't on board with this, of course, is Hansen is very upset and wants to get down to debriefing what happened on their first day, and
he uses the word it's procedure, and my favorite thing is Jinko being sounds Republican or something, and then of course Tom says I am Republican, which of course
Johnny Depp saying he's a Republican. That's probably the only time in his life that Johnny Depp has ever said he's a Republican.
It probably hurt him to say that line.
Yes, especially in the Reagan eras. Anyway. And then Judy's just busy over there rolling her eyes at the whole thing, because boys, what are the boys doing? So anyway, they sit down and debrief what happened on the first day, sort of very loosey-goosey.
Basically, they each go through, whatever.
Right. Very cop lingo heavy. The Asian is super competent, because, Asian's got to be super competent.
Well, and of course, he's talking about waiting on some money that has to come in for him to buy, go on a buy for some drugs. But the best part of this is that Hansen then gets out his little notepad and is going direct, totally 6:15 a.m. blah 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 blah, and they're all staring at him he's insane.
Going on?
Which, as someone who loves note taking, as someone who is looking at notes right now, that would be me.
That's exactly what I would be doing too. But Peter DeLuise is
doing his most.
Yes, just get to the point. He's finally just blurts out at one point.
He's staring. He's got his hand on his face. Yeah. He is oh my god, what is with this nerd? And just in the most DeLuise way.
So finally, basically, Depp gets to the point about trying to figure out what's going on with the Weckerly kid and Waxer.
And also as we had talked about last time, the big reveal was that Kenny is at the school where he is, and, you know, he was afraid he might make them. But then Jinko actually comes to be like, yeah, you don't think that's on purpose?
Yeah.
So even though I questioned that, I had forgotten about this, like, because
right.
I questioned why Hansen didn't realize that before he saw Kenny, knowing the name of the school. But, you know, Jink's not worried about it. He's like, it'll never happen. He'll never make you. Which I'm like, is that good police work?
Well, that's the question I had, is he's like, basically, as far as I can tell, he puts him in there on purpose so that he'll calm down and not go in all guns a-blazing like he usually would have. And if he sees Kenny, I guess that would calm him down. But it would totally be an easy way to blow his cover. It's not great police work as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, the fact that Kenny has met him in a police uniform in his own home, that was a traumatic experience. I would imagine you'd probably remember the person. But I guess because Jinko probably puts a lot of trust in Judy's makeover of Tom Hansen.
Yeah, basically, that he will totally be... He's totally unrecognizable now. He doesn't look at all like Johnny Depp anymore. I wanted to point out that at one point he's talking to Judy and he calls her sweet cheeks and winks at her, which is so 80s right at the moment. It's just
also
quite funny.
I will always and forever ship Jinko and Judy.
Oh yeah, there's definitely something there.
Like, I think he's just being whatever, and it's not.
Hey, sweet cheeks.
It's not like sexual harassment because it doesn't bother her. It's like a rapport that they have. I think
it's still part of his hippie thing, but yes. So anyway, yes, at the end of the thing, he orders him to go on a stakeout of the Weckerly kid for 24 hours
with Harry.
Yes. So Harry, Aoki, and Tom Hansen are now sitting in a car. The classic cop sitting in a car, bored, talking to each other thing about their lives.
And we have this fun little conversation where Aoki says that he learned English by watching Dragnet.
Well, of course he did. Do you want to deliver the joke?
But... Oh, the joke that he, what he thought assume the position meant? He's like, you don't want to know what I thought assume the position meant.
Assume the position. Well, that was after he mentioned the stakeout. He thought that was when you went out to eat a steak.
Yes.
Which is, he delivers it funnier than that. But anyway.
Out the window, we see Kenny on his cool scooter.
Yeah. Oh, and I mentioned, this is where I wrote down Daddy Issues, the series, because he brings up Hansen's father for the umpteenth time in this episode, and Hansen looks all broody again.
Well, it's hard because he's like, you know, I heard about your dad, that he was a great cop, that he, you know, won a medal. What did he win it for? And Tom very broodingly says, or getting killed.
Yeah, getting killed, yeah.
You know.
So, I don't know if that's the first time we heard that the dad got killed in action. I think it was kind of implied.
In the first episode, Donegan says something about how Hansen's so small and not as big as him, and Hansen says something like, well, maybe that's what made him such a good target. So you kind of get the sense, just the way they talk about him, it's so that 80s trope of like, everybody's talking about your father, clearly he's a cop, so we probably would have assumed that he died on the job. But yes, that's the gist.
It was an important bit of information that I didn't remember from the first episode that they had actually delivered to us, although I sort of assumed it's what happened. Right. So yes, scooter, sorry. Out comes Kenny on his scooter, and they're in pursuit of Kenny. Sure, he's up to no
first... Good. Right, they're checking him out, and they're like, oh, he's just delivering his newspapers.
Yes.
Because, of course, Kenny has a newspaper route. He's weirdly the whitest, most bland, most normal kid, but also a criminal.
Yeah. Anyway, so finally they do catch him doing his smash and grab thing, at which point Johnny Depp says, "Goose the deuce," as they're chasing him.
I didn't remember that part.
Goose the deuce, which I think just means, like, get on his tail is the idea. Like, you know,
okay.
I guess your deuce is your butt, and goosing it, like goosing your butt. I don't know. Anyway.
I
wrote down goose the deuce. So, anyway.
I didn't even hear that, so that's interesting.
So, we have a scooter chase with an 80s song over the top of it.
They're going to pursue him, but then it gets kind of wild, the chase. And
right, well, he's what's funny is we've got a switcheroo now. So Hansen had been the crazy chaser with the old man cop being like, "You're giving me a heart attack, kid," and now we've got Aoki driving like a madman, and poor Hansen feeling like, oh my god,
because at a certain point Hansen's like, okay, we can't just stop or whatever, and he's like, no man, I need the collar, which this show introduced me to the word collar.
Oh yeah,
which is basically like what they call an arrest, and I don't understand.
Collaring that's a slang term.
I know that it's a slang term, but this show particularly, they say it all the time, like, so-and-so is going to get the collar, or like...
It's like I think
they want to be the one to make the arrest. I totally know what it means. It's just funny.
I think the captain obviously keeps score for some reason, but...
Well, I mean, I think that must be true in police. I don't know. Maybe I should ask someone why you being the one to make the arrest is important.
I mean, I guess sometimes they keep track of these things, but in the case of the show, I think it's more a matter of competition, friendly competition.
I had never heard a show use it as much as the show does over the
and I probably should mention that Judy wanted half credit for some collar that Aoki had gotten before that we did not see. And so Aoki's like mad that he's only got half credit for the last one, which is why he's particularly gung-ho to catch Kenny this time. And so they go on this chase, and of course it ends up in a construction site, because every car chase, by law, is required to end up in a construction site.
Now, were you as impressed with this car chase as you were the last episode?
I mean, it's still good. I don't know. Maybe it's because the novelty had worn off, and I was expecting it to be good. Because they were
going after this scooter, too.
Yeah, the scooter part, I think... made the realism. Although, I mean, the one nice thing about a scooter, and this is why they always like introducing like motorcycles to chases and stuff, is they can get into smaller spaces, so the car has to
There's
swerve
the one part
around.
where he like kind of is goes scooting through somewhere and he like falls over.
Yeah, and he goes down like a set of stairs, and of course, it's midway through the chase, like, an actual police car starts chasing both of them,
because of course they're not they're on stakeout, so they're in Aoki's car, they're not in a black and white,
right? So that exactly. And so the black and white, basically they crash at the construction site, comes around, and out of the car pops our old friend, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head.
You're talking about Donegan?
Yes, Donegan, thank you. Donegan, and some other cop we don't know, and he's like, put your hands up, and Aoki's like, I'm a cop, and he's like, how do I know? And then Hanson sits up and he's like, I should have known. I didn't recognize you without your partner's broken nose. Is that what it is? Something like that.
Yeah, anyway, that's what he said.
Which is a great line to go to commercial on. So that's the little stinger going into the commercial, which is hilarious. So anyway, we leave it at that, and then we go to, out of commercial break, a stereotypical English class where they are diagramming sentences. I was just talking about this with a coworker of mine, that I don't know that I ever remember actually diagramming. I think I had one teacher, like old school teacher, who wanted us to diagram sentences.
I don't remember doing in high school. Like, I think I remember learning how to do that at on a small level when I was younger. Yeah. Also, his bow tie. Somebody needed to help that teacher learn how to tie a bow tie.
Yeah, it wasn't that good. But I mean, I love the bow tie glasses. The whole look was just...
He looked like he should have been a college professor or something.
And I about fell out and laughed when he said when he didn't say it. He said it just once, but he said anyone at one point, and I expected him to go Bueller. Yeah. I don't think it was a direct reference, although it might have been.
He did call the name of a gentleman that was asleep, which was fun.
Yes,
it was like every trope of boring teacher English class.
Yeah, and then
because it was also one of those TV tropes where literally no one was paying attention. No one.
Oh yeah, everyone hates it.
There was not one student. There was not one Amanda in that class or Christopher in that class.
Everyone hates authority in these. Like no teenagers ever respect anybody. Like, I feel like having worked, so I worked at a high school briefly, and like there are teenagers who disrespect everybody and hate all their, but for the most part,
every single one of them,
and for the most part they'll at least pretend to go along to get along, because they're stuck in the school for the whole day, so they might as well make the best of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just funny to me. Anyway, so this handsome boy is asleep, and he wakes him up, and he's busy being handsome and mouthy, and a girl is passing a note to Hanson, which then gets intercepted by the teacher, and he asks him to read it aloud, and Hanson, being a smartass, is like, how much I'm enjoying diagramming sentences, or something to that effect.
Well, I think he was trying to do it for her benefit, like,
yeah.
I hope you're enjoying this lesson as much as I am,
And then, so he reads the note, the English teacher reads the note and asks, so where is your car at? And he says that you can't end a sentence with a preposition, which, allow me...
Oh, I actually wrote this down. I actually looked this up.
Please do, because I'm annoyed by this. Because let me preface, I don't know what she's about to say, but I would like to preface by saying you can, in fact, end a sentence with a preposition every now and again. Carry
exactly.
on.
So, ending a sentence with a preposition is a rule from Latin grammar that was then, like, applied to English. But for modern English usage, it's actually not well suited. So, actually, there's a really great example. Some people like get around it by trying to avoid the preposition in like a super weird way. Allegedly, Winston Churchill once said, "That is the sort of thing up with which I will not put."
That is the sort of errant pedantry up with which I shall not put.
Errant. See, that's not what this says, but I believe that he would say that 100%.
Yes.
And that's mocking someone who criticized him for ending a sentence with a preposition. So yes, her little note that said, "I'll find your car if you tell me where it's at," does sound...
The "at" is unnecessary.
Right.
Tell me where your car is.
Right. But this English teacher is like your class... This is like a classic thing, I think, for TV and movies, the preposition thing.
I don't know why that's such a... English is a Germanic language, by the way, not a... Latin.
Well,
anyway.
It's a modge-podge of crazy shit, too. But anyway.
So, moving on.
But then he says... he says to Hanson, "Can you help her with that?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's over in the student lot number." And he's like, with the preposition, "If I were to ask you where the cafeteria was at, how would I say that?" And this is like one of my favorite lines from the series ever. Hanson goes, "Where's the cafeteria at, Schmo?" And of course, the class thinks that's hilarious.
Erupts in laughter.
And I actually once, in the early days of Facebook, I had a Facebook group of 21 Jump Street fans that was called "Where's the Cafeteria at, Schmo?"
Indeed. So in any case, Hanson has to stay after class because of his mouth. And there's two possible punishments. One is he uses
extra
innings with the football.
God, the sports metaphors.
Which is not even a football analogy. But anyway, with the football coach who's apparently in charge of all discipline. Or he could join the drama club and be part of the school play.
All right, I want to ask you this.
Carry on.
As we are both big into theater. That's how we met. I was so annoyed. Why is being in the school play a punishment? Now, for a kid like Hanson, what Hanson is playing, I could see that it would be a punishment, but also, why would you ask a troublemaker from your classroom
to be in the play?
Like, if I was stage managing that, I would be so pissed that I had to work with that kid.
And this happens in high school. Sometimes they'll just stick kids in the drama class and be like, it's an easy A for the, athletes or something. I have some experience with English teachers. So my drama teacher, my junior year of high school, quit halfway through the year because she was a drama teacher in more ways than one. Anyway, so they had to scramble for the second semester, which I'd already signed up for at the beginning of the year for drama, and they stuck an English teacher who had a minor in drama, I think, from college.
Right, and
it was just a disaster. And that's just how I feel about this being punished. It is probably punishment because they have this tweedy English teacher who probably has never actually acted in a play or done anything with theater, because they probably don't even have a drama department because of, the arts, who cares. And he's also doing the play, by the way, Rip Van Winkle, because why? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Anyway, so that's that. We then cut to the hallway where Wendy... Oh, the girl's name is Wendy.
The one who gave the note.
The one who gave the note to Hanson.
Tom, yeah.
And we find out basically that she gets around, shall we say. I don't know what the correct word would be.
Or at least wants to. I mean, she is eyeing him. She is like, hey, let's...
Yeah, she kind of talks up how,
later and all this stuff, and really hitting on him.
So Hanson decides his cover is that he already has a girlfriend. Not a bad cover, except then Kenny walks up and Hanson panics and lays a big fat smooch.
Yeah, he grabs her face
on Wendy. Yeah, and it's not just like a peck; it's like a full-on makeout.
Can we talk about how that's probably extremely not okay for him to do?
Right, he's 21. She's probably 16.
This will happen again. Because this is, I think, one of my biggest problems with the concept of going undercover in a high school is that they have to do things like date teenagers to get information. And that's extremely questionable to me.
Yeah, that's why I don't think this would actually work out in real life.
He clearly wasn't going to, sleep with her or anything like that. But just the concept of this 21-year-old guy. I mean, I understand why he did it. Because, again, he was trying to make sure... he's trying to stay away from Kenny at school, essentially, because he's afraid he's going to make him as an officer. But then he, kisses this girl, and she makes this, comment of, lucky girl, and he's like, who? He totally forgets that he just told her he had a girlfriend. She's like, your girlfriend.
And then a guy comes up and is like, "Hey, that's my girlfriend."
And it's like exactly who you would cast for that role.
Yeah,
it's like this guy in a Letterman jacket,
And then he says, "Lucky guy, she's a good kisser." So it's a fun little gag.
It is cute.
So then I don't know if we cut to it, but anyway, it ends up at her first rehearsal for the show, and he's
and then we have what you have to have in every movie, every television show, anything that has anything to do with drama class, is he uses the word thespian, and some kids like, I ain't no thespian, but then some other kids like, no, you're a homo. Like, I rolled so hard, I was like, oh, yes, yay. Indeed.
So
jokes about
Kenny, of course, is also in the play because Kenny has to just...
Yeah, that was what I wrote. I'm like, why is Kenny in drama? Like, don't get me wrong, that's probably where Kenny shines.
He keeps turning up like a bad penny.
He is dramatic as...
I'm wondering if this is just like an all-delinquent cast. Like, that's how they just pick all their delinquents in the play.
It must be, but also... I wonder if it's one of his things that are pushed by his parents again, because something that actually ends up being a little important later in this episode, so I'm going to bring it back up, that we didn't talk about in the first half, is that Kenny plays the clarinet,
right?
Because his father played the clarinet,
right?
And he thinks that it's so boring and it's awful, and his dad, which
his
is again
forcing him to play the clarinet of all things.
Well, and if you want to play the clarinet, that's fine. But I don't understand this trope of like parents wanting their kids to be just like them either, because I just think it's weird.
I mean, that happens in real life.
But I'm wondering if the drama thing, because it doesn't seem like something Kenny would also think that was stupid.
I feel like Kenny's being forced to be there too. It feels that way anyway. He certainly... I mean, I don't think Kenny really likes anything because he's that teenager who hates everything. Well, maybe that's just what this English
teacher does. If you say one word in his class, he's like, now you're in Rip Van Winkle, sucker.
He's obviously having trouble casting, so...
Well, would you want to act for that guy?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
And now I don't remember how Noreen gets brought up, but apparently Noreen is also gets around the school. Because,
of course, dun dun dun... The English teacher says, okay, I can't remember what Hanson's last name is. It's,
whatever his fake last name is.
His cover.
Oh, he and Kenny have to do a scene partners.
He has to read it with Kenny. So he's like standing there, like not moving, staring at Kenny. Yeah. And Kenny's like, what is your problem, dude? And he's just like staring. And then Kenny's like, I know you. And he's like, I don't think so. I'm new.
I love the I know you gag whenever somebody's undercover.
And he's like, he even does the whole like snap and point, like, no. I know you. And then what he says is, you dated my sister. Lots of guys have, which, okay.
Because he's from the other high school and she dated a bunch of people from that high school.
I'm gonna call him out for slut shaming Noreen, because I'm like, you are a criminal. Yeah. Noreen can date whoever she wants. Look at her hair. She can date anyone she GD pleases. Stop slut-shaming your sister and maybe start worrying about yourself, Kenny Weckerly.
Yeah. Anyway. I love the hey, I recognize you gag.
But anyway, so then Tom's still kind of like edgy and he's like, what is your deal, man? But it's kind of, we realize that he's not going to make him as a police officer.
And he's not going to...
Which I'm still shocked about. But I mean, I guess he does look like vastly different.
When he said, hey, I recognize you, I knew at that moment that he wasn't going to recognize him as the police officer, because that would have been too obvious. So anyway, we're back in the hallway with Wendy.
Wendy again.
So now Hanson's trying a different tack, which is basically that he has herpes.
Yep.
Because she was, I don't remember.
She talked about her friend Sheila and how she thought she had herpes, but it was just a cold sore. But then she was like, isn't a cold sore herpes? Like, it's so classic, like they're making her the classic ditzy 80s girl. And so he basically tells her he's the one that gave Sheila
the herpes.
And
which brings him up my favorite line so far in the pilot episode.
It's a good one.
Which is that he's wounded in action in the sexual revolution.
And so then she literally, he's like, but I can call you when it goes into remission. And she's like, no, that's cool. And she literally goes, ew, and walks away. So he has this great, like, smile and stuff on his face when she walks away, because it is pretty funny.
So he sorted that out, at least. So then we're into the parking lot. So, of course, Waxer is there in the parking lot for a confrontation,
Well, he's messing with Kenny.
I love Waxer's, like, cadence. His, like, he almost he's got this, like, kind of cool jive thing. I love it.
I don't know how to explain it, but yeah,
it's so great.
Reginald T. Dorsey is doing the most,
and it's great. And he brings out a switchblade, which Lord have mercy.
First of all, well, let's talk about this. He's talking to Kenny, and Kenny's like, "Leave me alone." And then Tom comes out and is like, "Leave him alone." And Kenny's kind of like, "What is with this guy? He's like suddenly stalking me." But of course, Waxer is mad at him anyway because he messed with his car and that whole situation. So this part is great because he brings out a switchblade.
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm going to cut you a lesson." Like, literally says that. I don't know if that's not, as far as I know, something that people say. But he's also wearing this, like, red jacket. Yeah. So he's giving me, like, almost Michael Jackson vibes. So it just made me think of, like, Beat It.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think that's what they were going for. I'm pretty sure.
So they're, like, kind of walking each other because he's got this switchblade and Hanson's, like, ready to go. And then I don't remember who it was.
Well, no, it's the football coach comes back in with more football lingo. I don't remember what it's some stupid. I just wrote down football lingo.
I don't know, but he's like, "What's going on here?" Basically, and so they play off the whole.
Like, we're friends.
I actually really love this. He's like, "We were just playing the dozens," which is funny to me because I was like, because he all of a sudden puts a switchblade away. I was like, did the guy not see the switchblade at all?
Yeah.
And playing the dozens, of course, is just when you're like giving each other shit, you know?
And of course, like, Hanson plays along with it because he doesn't
doing your mama
cover.
jokes or whatever. Yeah. And then he's like, and they're like, "Okay, buddy, I'll call you."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Please do." And he's like, "Oh, I will." And it's like, whew, he's gonna kill him.
Before the commercial break, though, he says, "Watch out for that one." He says to Hanson, "Watch out for that one," talking about Waxer. He's a killer. Now, I don't know if he means that colloquially or he's actually killed a man.
I do wonder about that.
Well, like, let a killer just hang out in public high school. Like, do they not have any sort of, like, special high school they can send?
Well, he is still technically underage, so I don't know.
I just know, in our county...
Or maybe he just knows that we
have, like, the troubled high school where you send the kids who are too dangerous for regular school. Well, he does have a probation
officer, so I don't know.
Commercial break. Back from the commercial break, we were back to Captain... What's the captain's name? I can never...
Janko.
I don't know why I blank on his name. Anyway, saying the name... Shazam, Captain Marvel, which is fun for this year. I
don't remember hearing him say that.
Because Hanson got a bunch of information. But so I would like to just point out as a nerd reference here that Shazam, the character from DC Comics, was originally named Captain Marvel until Marvel got a hold of the name and has since been releasing Captain Marvel comics every year to keep the copyright in, including switching it to a female and everything else. So technically, there were 2 Captain Marvel movies that came out this past year. Captain Marvel and Shazam
was called Captain Marvel too.
Yes, he was Captain Marvel back in the day.
She was called like Miss Marvel. She's had a
there's Miss Marvel, but there was a male Captain Marvel from Marvel Comics when they stole the name. Yes, Shazam was originally Captain Marvel, so I just found that funny. Anyway, I don't know that they know that necessarily with the reference.
Yeah, I don't even remember him saying that. But
so good licks, bub. Anyway,
I love when he says good licks. Anyway,
so they're trying to guess on what's going on with Kenny. Is it a burglary ring? Hanson still thinks it's probably drugs. So, good old Scooter Wank Weckerly. Who's calls it? I don't remember.
Is that when he says that?
Yeah, I think it's... Yeah. I was like...
it's because they're trying to figure out... He said he would get someone else to tell Weckerly and they could check out Wax.
I've always thought of wanker as a Britishism more than anything else, but I guess maybe the hippies like to call people wankers too.
I don't know. That was a weird... The way he said it was weird. I feel like that was a writing
bad bit of writing, yeah. So then we cut to a warehouse and there's rap music playing. So I'm like, gee, I wonder who's in the warehouse with the rap music playing. My goodness. Which turns out to be Diegetic coming out of a boombox. And it is, of course, Waxer.
And Ray working stripping a car.
Stripping a car, which, as we find out, is Kenny's dad's car. And Kenny shows up to bring some loot to Waxer. And is like, hey, that better not be my dad's car. And they're like, yeah, we already sold the engine.
What did he think they were going to do with his dad's car? And also, he, goes to the back of the car. Which just is funny to me, too, because they're already, stripping it down. And, he just pulls the clarinet out of the back. I was like, they would have gotten rid of that a long time ago. But he's like, you better not pawn this. This was my dad's. And the way he says, this was my dad's, it's like his dad died in some horrible way. I'm like, you don't even like your dad? Yeah. Also, aren't you supposed to be playing the clarinet in the band? Are you just showing up to band sans clarinet?
I don't know what...
Because the mom even says at the very beginning before, at the very beginning of the pilot, like, that's the same clarinet your dad played. So, like...
I guess it was in the back. It was in the trunk of the car when they stole the car,
Sorry,
I guess.
These guys stole my dad's
They probably didn't
car.
even know the clarinet was back there. But anyway, he gives him a camera. It's a pretty nice camera, actually. And I love that Waxer takes pictures of Kenny, which is nice and, whatever. And that's basically the end of that scene. There's not much else to report. Basically, just showing Kenny's relationship with Waxer.
Well, Kenny asks him if they're square now, and he's like, "You'll never be square."
Waxer says something about a TRW.
I have no idea what that means.
I have no idea what that means either. Okay, well, in any case, we cut to a swanky-looking party with... This lady has this
Well, it's a restaurant.
It's a restaurant, but it's a swanky, restaurant with... some makeup. Oof, this lady had some makeup.
It was like she had
Sparkly.
glitter all on the side of her face.
Oh gosh, yeah. I was like, that's going to be on her pillow for the rest of her life. Anyway,
it's still there.
And so Hanson and HT are staking out again.
Yeah.
Great hearing, by the way. So, this may be slightly racist for me to say, but he reminded me a little bit of Rufio. With the big earring.
Oh, because of the earring?
The earring.
No, I can see what you're saying.
And he's Asian, so I think maybe it just reminded me of Rufio. That's just the first...
Well, and he has that hair, his hair, the way he wears his hair is really high up. So,
of course, Rufio
I don't think you mean that in like a racist way. The style is very much similar, actually.
Of course, Hook was years after this, so maybe Rufio reminds me of this. But anyway, so Waxer is showing up at this fancy restaurant. You're like, what's Waxer doing at the fancy restaurant?
Also, can we talk about how he kisses the hostess? Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that.
Like, he walks up to her and they kiss because it almost looks like he's coming for a date, but then she just takes him over to his table with
maybe he has a little
kingpin. And it was the weirdest
thing. He must have had a little liaison.
I was like, I guess he goes here a lot, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's weird to me that he kissed the host. I don't know.
So yes, he sits down at the guy I call sport coat guy because he's wearing a sport coat on his shoulders but not over his arms, which strikes me as the most 80s rich man thing you could possibly do.
Also, we have to talk about what Waxer is wearing. He has this, it's almost like a bolo tie, but it's not a bolo tie. It's just this giant sapphire jeweled... I don't know what else to call it because it's where you would wear a tie or a bolo tie. And it is so blingy and fabulous. Also, he looks older than most of the people there.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And so...
I actually looked Reginald T. Dorsey up. I think that's his name. If I'm wrong,
Who plays Waxer?
I'm wrong. And I couldn't find on IMDb or on anywhere else his date of birth. So, I don't know how old he actually was.
He's just
ageless
at this time. And timeless.
I mean, he really is. But it's just funny to me that he's playing a teenager because he's clearly not a teenager.
So, anyway, they're obviously doing a deal. So, obviously, this is Waxer's boss or his runner or whatever.
Well, I think he's the kingpin.
The drug kingpin kind of thing. And at one point, I don't know who says it, but they clearly overdubbed the word right at some point in this.
Oh, okay. So it's when Tom goes to the bar and he asks
that's
for...
right.
He's like, I want a draft, and the guy's like, we don't serve that. And then he says, a light, and the guy lights up a lighter, and he's like, ha, ha, ha. And he's like, can I see some ID? So once again, we get Tom being mad that he looks young. And undercover...
He flashes his badge.
On a stakeout, he flashes his badge. He's like, is this ID enough for you? And I'm like, Hanson, get over yourself. And he's like, I'll turn this place in to whoever. Yeah. And so the guy's like, that was a Bud Light. And I'm like, all that over a Bud Light, really?
Yeah.
Just get a water, dude. But it was just... It was so annoying because once again we get Tom being like, how dare you think that I don't look old enough to drink? And he almost blows his... Because if Waxer had walked by or something while he's flashing his stupid badge, it's a whole thing. So the Waxer and the sport coat guy do their cool handshake and head out to the car, and Hanson signals Aoki to follow them, and then he tries to get in a taxi, and he's like, hit it. And he's like, oh, let me guess, follow that car, says the taxi driver, and he's like, yeah. And so I love this taxi driver. No, this is totally me as a taxi driver. Because he's like, no, get a bus. And he's like, I have the right to commandeer this vehicle. He's like...
Oh, totally no nonsense.
Commandeer this. Like, totally me as a cabbie. I'd be like, yeah, I ain't getting in the middle of your shit.
I just love the grumpy old men in this show. I think it's because I'm a grumpy old man, but I love this.
That's true.
Anyway, so finally he convinces the taxi driver by ripping a bill in half, which is also like
it must have been like $100 bill or something, because when he looks at it, he's like, you got it. That's me. I'm like, show me the money.
You'll get the other half of this if you do it. And so off he goes, and boy, talk about some crazy
all
driving.
Of a sudden, he's like freaking evil.
Bat out of hell, yeah. And
he's like, I'll follow him, all right.
So he's basically driving like a madman through the streets and crashes into the back of a car. And who should get out of said car but Waxer?
Because that's who they're following.
So Waxer comes up and starts yelling at the taxi driver, and then he sees Hanson in the back seat.
Yeah, it's a
And Hanson just kind of stares at him.
No, and then he's like, what are you doing here? What's going on? And he literally
shoots at him and breaks the back window.
I'm like, okay, when that guy said he was a killer, he wasn't kidding. Waxer, I think what it is that, so he's supposed to be a teenager. Teenagers' brains aren't fully developed. So when you put like guns in the hand of a teenager and drugs and whatever, I mean, he does not think. He's
like, about to murder a man for crashing into his car. I mean,
it's because
he knows
he
put two and two together at this point.
I don't know if he knows he's a cop, but he's really doesn't understand why this kid from school that he's had this tuffle with is following him. Yeah. He's like, nope.
So anyway, he goes peeling off and it's like follow, which is a great sight gag to go to commercial break on. Follow him, and there's this like wreck of a taxi car, and he's like trying to like drive in. It's like ka-chunk, 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 and into commercial. So out of commercial, we have Captain again getting a phone call.
Okay.
And then he tells him to arrest Weckerly, and then we cut to Kenny digging in a dumpster.
No, he's not digging in a dumpster. He's picking up his papers.
That's what
he has to deliver.
I thought I had him digging in a dumpster, but you're right. That's what it is. By the way, this music that they have for the kind of intense scenes is kind of great. Actually, I've been ragging on the synth music, so I should point out when it's good. And here it is good.
Yeah.
It's like intense and
something's
up. Poor Kenny needs a bodyguard. But anyway, Waxer drives up, and suddenly he's all nice and happy. He's like, "Hey, I pay my associates," and
he's being real overly friendly, and he's like, I want to keep morale up for people, so he hands him a speedball of drugs, and he's like, take. Which, here's my question: do we think that Kenny is actually doing drugs before this, or do we think? I think this is the first time Kenny's actually probably done drugs.
Which is why it goes poorly. Spoiler alert! But
because at this point, like you said, I do think that Waxer is like, there's something going on with that guy, and he's with Kenny. If he's a cop...
No, I think Kenny's all about the Benjamins, which I was like, Kenny probably just wanted money. Because I'm sure the reason he got into all that wasn't because he's a druggie, but because he just wanted money.
But I do wonder, because why does he owe them money? Because the reason he was stealing and stuff was for him. So maybe he had done drugs before. I'm not really sure, but...
So...
And I wrote, don't do it, Kenny.
Yeah. So we're back at school, and Kenny is in the locker room, so you know what's about to happen. He goes into the showers and...
Which I'm like, why?
And shoots up the drugs.
Why at school, of all... I mean, why? Why would you do that at school?
So Hanson goes to the drama class, and they're like, welcome, come. And he's like, where's Kenny? And they're...
Well, he's been looking for Kenny all morning.
Yeah.
Because... I don't remember why, but I think... because he's going to go ahead and arrest him, right?
Yeah. So, anyway, he's headed... They tell him they think he saw him in the locker room, so he runs over to the locker room and, of course, finds Kenny passed out on the floor of the locker room because this is,
in really bad shape.
Looks
because
dead.
of all these drugs were, no joke. Waxer was clearly trying to have him OD and die.
Right. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang is busy arresting Sport Coat Guy breaking into a...
put... Jinko is not a pacifist because he beats the crap out of that guy.
Yeah, well, he's clearly angry about this situation.
He does not like drugs.
So after they arrest Sport Coat Guy, we cut to the hospital, and Judy and Hanson are chatting, and Judy's hair's on point, so I was not paying attention.
But they're basically talking about, I think Hanson kind of feels bad.
Yeah.
And she's like, a druggie's gonna die no matter what. They're either gonna die... later or when I don't know. Anyway, she's trying to make him feel better, I guess.
So Kenny's talking to his parents, and Kenny is being an absolute dick to his parents.
And they are being... Now, don't get me wrong. These are the most annoying white people. But they're being so apologetic to him. and like, oh, I wish we'd known more about this. And the dad was like, just you and me, we're going to play golf this weekend. I'm like, yeah, because Kenny seems like, I'm like, are you trying to make him do more drugs? Because Kenny seems like the kind of kid that would not go golfing with his dad.
Yeah, but it's like, you're in the hospital, Kenny. Lay off mom and dad. They care about you. Like,
he did kind of say, like, it's not your fault, parents. Like, it's almost like, I don't know.
Parents just don't understand. I think maybe I'm just an old man now, because I'm kind of like, the teachers and the parents are all like, they're just trying their best.
I don't really like his parents, and they are probably part of the reason he got into this.
Oh, I'm sure. But...
However, yeah, he almost died.
He almost died, so give him a little bit of, Rope. Anyway.
And I wrote another thing about overdubbing.
Oh, yeah, stinks for sucks.
And he tells him to spit off, which I wonder what he even said to begin with.
Surely he wouldn't drop an F-bomb.
It wouldn't have been the F-bomb, so I'm trying to figure out what it was.
And tail for ass again.
Oh, that's what... Going back a long way, because I forgot we talked about this kind of... But you had said there was an overdubbing of right.
Right, yeah.
That was when Hanson was at the bar and flashed his badge. I think he must have said, like, no shit or something, because the guy was like, so that was a Bud Light? And he's like, right, but it was an overdubbing. And I was like, what would he have said that you would overdub with right? And I'm like, he must have said, like, no shit, because he was pissed or something.
Again, I think Fox chickened out on its edginess, but...
And then Tom comes to talk to him, and he's like, can I...
Kenny's being an idiot.
Well, when is he not?
And so Tom does what we've all wished he would do.
And he says something about Waxer was trying to kill you or something. Like, you can't handle that. And he says, who says I was going to die? And I'm like, you're in the hospital, kid. If Hanson hadn't found you, what did you think was... Oh my gosh, this kid.
And so finally Hanson does what we all wish we could do, which is slap the heck out of Kenny. Now, I'm generally not for hitting children.
I'm not either. Like, I don't think that's good ever. But, like, I would have smacked him, too. And then, of course, he's, like, crying because he's the most dramatic child.
Yes. So, that's basically the end of that, because the next comment I have is, nice fringe, Judy.
Well, because then we're going to
we're cutting to the warehouse.
The sting operation.
So, we're cut to the warehouse, and Judy and Penhall are headed up to the door.
Because I wrote, how does Judy buy these clothes with an officer salary? She has to get a clothing budget.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because, it was a fringe jacket, and it was, again...
It looked like something from Texas Roadhouse to me, like a country singer would wear, but anyway.
But, like, more stylish than that, but yes.
And so Waxer answers the door, and she's
Ray answers the door.
Right, so Ray answers the door, and Judy's, like, trying to get drugs, and she's being very cool. And, of course, he's upset about the gray boy being there.
Well, because then when Waxer asks who's there, he's like, some fresh-looking freak.
Yeah, fresh-looking freak.
And a gray boy.
That's Peter DeLuise. How dare you?
Which, again, gray boy is such a great... No-color choir boy and gray... I'm just going to start calling you my no-color choir boy, because, gosh, that's hilarious to me.
I'll take it.
Well, and he has this whole thing, like, he calls himself, like, the OG, and she's like, original gangster, my... And then... I is the overdubbing, but she's clearly saying ass. And Pete, I don't know, Pete just looks so beautiful in the background. I'm going to apologize to you as my husband and to anybody who listens to this, that I'm going to talk about how beautiful Peter DeLuise is every episode. I'm just warning you now.
Good to know. And so he asks, do you have the ducats? So apparently
I wrote, is this Merchant of Venice?
Yeah, it's like, we're going full on Shakespeare here for like a hot second. So, of course, she's wearing a wire, and Jenko...
Well, also, she's not supposed to go in without Penhall, and they're like, Gray Boy has to stay outside.
Right, and so she goes in.
Like, we cut to, everybody else, like, Jenko's like, shoot, she's not supposed to go in alone, and they're like, it's messed up because she's in there by herself.
Do you want to talk about Jenko's outfit at this point? His beret, and, like, his John Lennon glasses that he looks...
when does Jenko not look like
he's
the greatest
so Lennon
dream?
Anyway,
I do love the glasses.
So they figure out that she's wearing a wire and she's busted. So they have to go rushing in. Penhall comes in firing.
And when Penhall opens the door, this is one of my favorite things. So that wall, because it's supposed to be like this warehouse. When he opens the door, you can tell that it's a false wall because it jiggles.
Oh yeah.
And that is in the credit sequence. Yeah. So every time the credit sequence plays, you see him open the door in this wall.
False wall.
And the reason it's a false wall is because then the shooting starts happening, and
here comes the Scooby van.
Jinko in his hippie Scooby van right through right through the wall.
And so they have a standoff. Long story short, Jenko eventually gets fired at and has to fire back. And
has to kill Ray Ray.
And Ray Ray, I don't know if I don't know if we see him die, but
I'm pretty sure Ray Ray died because they all. I like that they showed Jenko looking upset that he had to shoot him, which you don't always get.
I really liked that too. That was a great
because he's
moment.
A kid, like he is just a teenager, and you don't want to kill a teenager.
Makes a run for it, and Hanson has to run after him.
Well, and I put first shootout with a hippie van, ever.
So. Hanson's running after him, which I put. First of all, there's like this great hard rock score over it too. It's like electric guitars and everything,
and they are running.
And Johnny Depp is actually a good runner.
He is a good runner. I don't ever see him run.
Well, see, the problem is
unless he's running
post
in like
Jack Sparrow, we have him run like a little girl with his arms flailing.
I love that run.
So I kind of wish Tom Cruise could just do his running for him.
But I wrote. Waxer should stop eating at fancy restaurants because he looked like he was having a tough time running.
Struggling.
But, I mean, he was getting far.
So, of course, they end up... He finally catches him. They have a fist fight. Johnny subdues him. And up comes the Scooby van with the great little siren in the window, which I love. It's like, looks so cheap, but it's like... Anyway. And
I want that car to drive around.
And so they arrest Waxer...
And Tom's okay.
And Judy.
I did write. So there's this song playing, like you said, while he's chasing him, and then there's lyrics to the song, but I wasn't thoroughly listening. But when he finally catches up to Waxer and like throws him to the ground, I swear it sounded like it was saying "Praise the Lamb." So now I'm like, what is this song? It probably said "Praise" to something else, but I was like,
I don't think it was a Jesus song.
That's so weird. I think I don't know why. That's what it sounded like.
And I wrote down that Judy wants some Hanson. I don't know when that happened, but Judy...
No, because she says, "You're all cop, aren't you?" I like that in a guy, but I think she's just busting his balls because, again...
And then, so we see Noreen picking up...
so then we go to the hospital, and Noreen
that outfit
is talking about... Okay, well, listen. She's talking about how she just got her driver's license. And I wrote, Noreen gets her driver's license and is suddenly a 30-year-old businesswoman.
With shoulder pads.
She has on this power suit with shoulder pads. And she's got a wrap around her hair. It's almost kind of like Rosie the Riveter, but it's like more professional than that. And I put R.I.P. to her hair.
Yeah, I do miss her hair. I think she's trying to look like old or something, I guess.
Well, I think the idea is that like maybe all this stuff with Kenny like kind of made her grow up a little bit because she's also really, really sweet to Kenny. They're actually, I like their relationship.
Their relationship is nice
because she's like, it's really been hard on Mom and Dad, almost as hard as it's been on you. Like she's acknowledging.
I feel like this is where the moral, like the PSA aspect of it is coming 100%. in. Like your parents really do care about you. Like don't get into drugs, kids.
Yeah. But
and then Hanson's there in those ridiculous quasi aviator shades and a cardigan,
leaning up against his car.
Like Argyle.
It looks like in any other thing in the 80s, this would be like the boyfriend waiting on his girlfriend to get out of whatever. It's like he's like leaned up against his car, looking cool, but. And Kenny comes to talk to him.
And there's basically like the just say, that's it.
Basically, Tom's like, just because you mess up doesn't mean your life is over,
And then I thought this was creepy, but I guess it's probably not. Where he says goodbye to Kenny and says, "Say hi to your sister for me."
What I think it is that I thought about it for a while because it made me feel a little icky too. I think it's a joke because of the earlier scene where he thought he dated her sister. The sister.
I think it is a reference. You're right.
I don't think that he's like actually like say hello to 16-year-old Noreen. I think it's more a joke because like I'm a cop. I didn't date your sister. I don't know. Anyway.
So we're back at 21 Jump Street briefly. We're almost to the end of the episode here. I love Penhall's "Just Say No to Drugs" shirt. By the way,
yes,
it's so Nancy Reagan 1980s.
He is just.
There's some musculature under there.
I don't really like guns, and I don't think guns are attractive. But the way he wears his harness,
the harness,
I'm just over that T-shirt and with his like blue jeans. I'm like, Peter DeLuise, why are you so beautiful?
He's trying to do another debrief, and he's like, we don't do debriefs on Friday night. Why not? Jump cut
also, I put I am 12 because he's like, nobody debriefs on Friday night, and I'm like, I want to debrief on Friday night.
Oh Lord.
And the reason no one debriefs on Friday night
garage band, of course.
Jinko has a
garage band. And of course, so Hanson shows up in his cardigan to the garage band, and he has a case. And what's in the case? They brought the saxophone back. Yay!
Also, I want to talk about this garage band that Jinko has. What do you think they play?
60s standards, of course, right?
As much
acid rock.
As much like Doors merchandise. I've seen him wear several Doors
Jefferson
items.
Airplane.
Maybe they're just like purely a Doors cover band and they just go on for hours.
They probably just light up some doobies and just play whatever comes.
Well, he doesn't light up doobies anymore.
That's true. I think he had a bad drug trip. I think that's why he became a cop.
Well, he does talk about when they're having the whole conversation about how Hanson doesn't know who. Jimi Hendrix. So like how he doesn't know who Jimi Hendrix is, and he says something. Too bad he had to throw it away, getting high.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
He obviously.
Jenko is very anti-drugs,
which is good for him. But I want to know what they're gonna play that Tom's gonna play a saxophone with.
I have no idea.
I wish we saw them.
Yeah, we'll never find out because it ends on a freeze frame of Jenko mid guitar riff, but and then the credits were just of somebody flipping through a yearbook.
You finally watched the credits because you didn't last time.
I didn't last time. I watched it.
So the credits. I don't think it's not always this way. I think later on it's just like random shots. But there's this lady with giant red fingernails slowly turning the pages of a yearbook. Actually, the DVDs, which we should do this sometime because it'll be fun, has a commentary from Peter DeLuise, and he questions this. He's like, "Who is this lady?"
Yeah.
Like he does this whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very weird. Also, I don't know if it's the way that this prop of the yearbook is made, but you can't, it's like not zoomed right to where you can't actually make out faces in it, which is almost creepy. I'm thinking
they just picked some random high school yearbook and just had somebody flip through it because they didn't know what else to do for the credits.
But anyway.
It's a weird way to end the episode. But
yeah, that's the credits.
Okay, so let's wrap this episode up with what is your favorite 80s thing, outfit, moment, line, whatever?
My favorite 80s-ness of this episode is Waxer's sapphire blingy bolo tie broochy thing that he wears to the restaurant. Like, I'm not even kidding. It was fire.
I almost hate to make Noreen my favorite twice in a row, especially since Noreen, I suspect, will not be showing up again. But that outfit.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, dear.
We see Kenny Weckerly again because that's what the world needs is more Kenny Weckerly.
The Weckerlys in general just need to go back to their wasp place and be wasps. But I think that was probably my favorite. I don't know. I did like the synth music. Like,
you mean Noreen in general was your favorite?
No, just the outfit.
Oh, her outfit.
No, not her. Because she doesn't really show up in this episode.
Her 30s business woman outfit.
Yeah, or maybe that glittery makeup on that one girl.
Oh, yeah.
That was something. I'm still not sure if I'm watching the show ironically or actually. Maybe it'll be less ironic as it goes along. Because I was trying to watch it as a show, like if I was actually watching a show, as opposed to being like, wow, this is so 80s. But there are so many moments like, the just sort of cheesy moments where you kind of get taken out of it a little bit. But,
yeah.
But it's still fun, I think. I mean, it's, there
will be episodes that I feel... It's like most shows, especially shows like this that are like procedurals, that are dramas. And also, there's quite the comedic element to this show, which I like. But
there's some better lines in this one.
There's up and down, because there's some really sad episodes, too. But it's a show.
It's lighthearted. I feel like they're not taking themselves too seriously. No. Depp, I think, of course, his character is very serious, but I don't know that the whole show is taking itself too seriously.
Right.
So. But it's fun, so I'll be interested to see, because, of course, the pilot is an attempt. The whole point of a pilot is to convince a network to greenlight the whole show.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a capsule. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see then how they sort of build episode upon episode from here on.
Yeah.
As someone who's never seen it before. So
I know this is, I think, the fun part for me is rewatching it, because it's been a while since I've rewatched them, especially certain ones. Because when back when I was watching it a lot, I didn't watch didn't binge necessarily. I watched like my favorite episodes. So it's fun to see it again through new, older eyes, and also see you watch it for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, I should probably mention, sorry, one more 80s thing is Judy in general. The hair, the fringe.
Judy's going to be mine probably.
Judy's just my favorite. So
also, Okie Dokie count. There was apparently only one in this episode.
Oh, what a shame. But in the first episode, there was a bunch, right?
There were 2.
Oh, 2. It'll probably get more.
It feels like more because it sounds so weird the way he says it, Okie Doke or Okie Dokie. I don't know. It's very funny. But
I don't know how we're supposed to wrap it. Or we're going to have a cute way to wrap this up. I know you have your catchphrase. Is there something else we want to wrap it up with? Or are we
I'm just going to say, Okie Doke, that's it. And to all you gray boys out there.
Hey, if you like this, there are ways to subscribe and to leave reviews.
Yeah,
and that does help.
Do that. And we've talked about, as we go along, maybe getting to put a Patreon together where we will... Because obviously these episodes are pretty long, but where we can do a little bit more.
We'll get it figured out. We're still getting our feet wet in this whole podcasting thing.
Might do some live videos and things like that. But anyway, thanks for listening, and you're going to learn something when we meet you on the pod.